The Harris campaign in full panic mode. So it's the illegals to the rescue. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, here is now the absolute latest. As I pointed out on X last night, internal polls now within the Kamala Harris campaign, Comrade Kamala, show that she is in big, big trouble. She got zero bounce, nothing. After the Democratic National Convention, her interview on This Is CNN completely bombed. It was a disaster for her. Now you have McDonald's Gate, where it turns out she completely lied. She's been caught lying. Hamburger Harris never worked at McDonald's, ever. And they're trying to make it a big central part of her biography. And of course, as I talked about yesterday, the scandal now involving her viciously smearing and attacking Gold Star parents for honoring their dead children at a ceremony, a wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. Now the Gold Star parents are fighting back. They're speaking out. This is turning into a public relations nightmare for Comrade Kamala and her team. So, as they can see now that the campaign is starting to slip away from them, here it comes. The illegals are coming. The illegals are coming. So here is now the absolute latest. The Biden-Harris regime has now formed an agreement with the government of Mexico, the government of Mexico, on the issue of illegal immigration. And what they have now done, listen to this, is they have now put together a plan, a transportation plan, which will now provide buses, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of buses. In fact, they're mostly white buses marked X at the southern border of Mexico, not our border with Mexico, but Mexico's southern border. And in particular, it's going to be in two southern Mexican cities. Villa Hermosa, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, in the province of Tabasco, and Tapachula in the province of Chiapas. So there, migrants coming in from Central America, coming in from Latin America, frankly, many of them coming in from Ukraine, from Russia, from the Middle East, from China. They're all coming into that area. They come in through the Darien Gap. That's the big hole. That's the big fissure that they exploit. And then they get into southern Mexico. Well, here is now the plan. They have put together an agreement in which the Mexican government will provide all of these buses carrying all of these illegals police and military protection through a specific geographic zone linking southern Mexico to central Mexico, and then central Mexico to northern Mexico, where all of these illegals are going to be dropped off at strategic points along the U.S. southern border. And in fact, they're even setting up asylum appointments with the Biden-Harris regime under the CBP 1 application. Customs Border Protection 1 application. It's an app whereby you can set up, I'm not kidding, you come in, you set up a scheduled appointment, say, I don't know, next week, next Thursday, 2:30 p.m. in El Paso, Texas. All you have to do is show up, and you're all automatically processed and admitted into the country, and you'll have a court date in 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now. They don't even interview you. You don't even have to claim that you have credible fear, that you're being, I don't know, persecuted or there's a war or whatever. No, you just go through the app, as long as you show up at the appointed time and date at a port of entry and along our southern border with Mexico, and you're in, baby. You're in like Flint. It's basically catch and release. That's what it is. but with an app setting up a specific time to be caught and then to be released into the interior of the United States. Now, this is part of the secure emerging mobility corridor. So the Mexican government just made this huge announcement that they're now going to be giving bus rides, hundreds and hundreds of bus rides. We're talking now about caravans of illegals with police and military escorts. Also, by the way, we're paying for all this. Free food. So we're paying for their meals, not just now when they come in at the border and once they're in the United States. No. Now we pay for their meals the moment they get into southern Mexico. And we pay for the buses, and we pay the Mexican government for the police and military escorts. Now, one of the reasons, and by the way, border czar Kamala Harris recently met with the Mexican president Andres Obrador to finalize this plan. What a coincidence, huh? What a coincidence. What a coincidence. I can't believe it. Now, to show you how blatant this is, the Mexican government, their words, not mine, say, quote unquote, this is how we take out and remove the trash from our country. So they're urging poorest Mexican citizens, get on the buses. Go El Norte, vote Kamala. They're telling people from all over the world, just come in through the Mexican southern border. Okay, those two Mexican southern cities. We're going to put you on a bus, we promise. And no cartels. You don't have to even dish out now $8, $10, $12, $15,000. No. We'll give you military police protection. We'll give you medicine, free food, blankets, clothes, all provided by the dumb gringo, us, the taxpayers. And we'll get you on that bus. And in about 7 to 10 days, you will be in the United States, and once you're here, you're here. Now, many of them are being given instructions to vote. So what this is clearly now doing is they want one more massive surge at the border to try to influence and interfere in the 2024 election. You can't get more naked. You can't get more brazen than this. Kamala Harris is now intimately involved, Comrade Kamala, in the border invasion, in the invasion of our border, in the invasion of our country, in criminally, illegally breaking our immigration laws. This is treason to the nth degree. And she and Biden are using our money to pay for it. So I want you to think about this. We're paying the Mexican government, your money, my money, to break our laws, to encourage illegals to get on what's going to eventually be thousands of buses. They've already got several hundred lined up, and that was just this weekend, according to all the stories now that are being published in Mexico and here in the United States. So they've already got hundreds of buses packed, and they're already on the move. And that's the first wave. And we're paying for the military protection, the Mexican military. We're paying for the Mexican police to escort these buses. We're paying for all the meals, all the health care, all the clothing, all the blankets. We're paying for everything. By the way, the ACLU is also there to coach them and guide them on how to fill out the CBP-1 application, the app. So once they get to the border, they're just automatically processed and brought in. The only thing they haven't been given yet, which they will be at the border, is a guide on who to vote for. Like, okay, so if you're going to be processed and you want to go to Chicago, you want Chicago? Okay, here's where you're going to be in Chicago. Okay, so here's where you go vote. Or, you like Boston? You want to stay, great welfare, best welfare, Best welfare benefits you can get are in Boston. Okay, Massachusetts. Where are you going to be living in Boston? Oh, you like Quincy? You want Quincy? Okay, here's where you have to go vote on November 6th. Comprende? Comprende? Okay, good. That's the only thing missing. The only thing missing. They're trying to steal it. Whether it's through phantom voters, phantom votes, mail-in balloting, ballot harvesting, ballot trafficking, and now a massive surge at the border. They're going to try now to steal this because that's the only way Kamala Harris can win. She can't notice she is not running on her record because there's no record to run on. You can I've asked this of countless liberals. They cannot answer this simple question. Name me one positive accomplishment of Kamala Harris. Just one. I don't care. Her vice presidency, as senator, as district attorney, as attorney general, throughout her entire horrible career. Can you name me just one accomplishment? They can't. That's why they're trying to steal it. 619 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just to put an exclamation point very quickly because the lines are jammed, I want to go right to the phone lines. So here is exactly what happened. 1 week ago, there was a deal hashed out between the Mexican government and border czar Kamala Harris, Comrade Kamala, along with other Biden administration officials. So Kamala was intimately involved in this deal. They are now, as I said, going to be bringing in initially hundreds, if not thousands of buses loaded with illegals. But this time now, it's messy in Mexico because they come in through the southern Mexican border and then they trek or make their way to central or northern Mexico and then eventually find their way to these ports of entry. What they're now going to do is they're basically going to fast track these illegals. They're going to set them up with all these buses, armed security, armed escorts, military police, free food, free blankets, free medical care. They're loading them up. They're processing them. And there's a corridor where they're just going to go right to Mexico City, from Mexico City, to northern Mexico. And then they've got all these appointments laid out on the CBP1 app. Now, here's the key point. They are processing now 1,450 illegals a day just from this app alone. So just this CBP1 app, this asylum app, where you don't even have to do an interview. You literally come in, name, place of birth, basic information, and then you're in. They let you in, and you're going to have a court date in maybe 4, 5, 6 years. You're never going to see these people again. Okay, until they're given amnesty. And so it's in. So now you're going to say, well, Jeff, 1,450 a day compared to, other illegals coming in through the border, that doesn't seem so much. Well, think about it. That's 8,000 a week. Now, if you look at Michigan, you look at Wisconsin, you look at Georgia, 11,000 votes decided Georgia. 16,000 votes decided Wisconsin. 26,000 votes decided Michigan. So what I'm saying is you're bringing in now 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 over the next several months just on this one app alone, this one transportation program alone. And you settle them and relocate them in the right states. Arizona, Nevada, as I mentioned, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan. That's the ball game. That's the ball game. I'm not talking about all the other illegals that are pouring in. I'm just talking about this specific program that they agreed to, and that now is now being funded by the Biden-Harris regime. So, yes, do I think they're trying to steal it? No question. Are they in the process of stealing it? No question. So my question to you, did you vote yesterday? Did you see any voter fraud on primary day? And more than that, do you fear voter fraud on election day, November 6th? Do you now fear that the Democrats and Kamala Harris are going to steal it? Sandy in Rockland, you're going to kick us off. Thanks for holding, Sandy, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. I did never in my entire life think I'd see voter fraud done right in front of my face. I live in Rockland, Mass. I went up to Rockland Town Hall to put my ballot in to the thing. I looked to the left, and there's a ballot on the table. There's a man on the other side and a woman on the side I'm on, and he's telling her how to fill out that ballot.
What, really?
Yeah, really. I'm being serious, right in front of me. And they justify it by telling me that's a mail-in ballot, and they're just correcting it because they put check marks on. I'm saying you can't do that. You can't do that. But at that moment, I had to leave. I had an appointment. But I thought about it, and I said, I have to go back. I have to go back and say something. And they all came over to me and kept justifying that just because it's got a check mark that they're allowed to fix the ballot. I told them they're not. So they decided to put me through to the state rep, who must have reprimanded them of doing it in front of people. And I was told I was right. You can't do that.
Of course you can't do that. Sandy, you're not 100. You're 1,000% correct. I mean, that's blatant fraud. I can't, and they did it right in front of everybody. They did it in front of you. They did it out in the open. Correct, Sandy?
In the open, next to the ballot box.
Unbelievable.
Where you got to put your ballot in.
Unbelievable. Sandy, I know it's hard to see sometimes, but do you know, is it a Democrat or a Republican ballot?
Okay, I think it was independent. Because I asked a few people which colors, because I didn't really know the color of the independent or the mail-in ballot. But they were definitely tampering this ballot, telling me it was a mail-in one.
Incredible. See, that's why I'm against mail-in ballots, Sandy. You just laid it out. The potential for fraud is immense. Immense. And, you know, they were stupid. They should have just done it behind closed doors. Instead, they were so arrogant they did it in front of everybody. But Sandy, imagine if they just did it behind closed doors. Who would have known? You wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have known. I mean, am I wrong, Sandy?
Wrong at all. That's why I want you to keep on voter fraud, and I want people to volunteer because I'm 68 and I thought I was too old to understand. They really tried to convince me they were doing right.
Good for you. Sandy, good for you. Good for you. Sandy, thank you very much for calling in. So there you have it. So these idiot liberals, there's no, in Massachusetts, there's no fraud. They just caught him. They literally just caught him right in the open. Now, this is just what we've seen. Can you imagine? And look, honestly, they're really dumb. That's just pure arrogance. That's just brazen arrogance. Okay? If they had literally an iota of a brain, you take the mail-in ballots, you go in the back, that's what they do anyway, and you change the votes. That's what you do. That's why you have to have in-person voting. Same day, in-person voting with voter ID, like we used to have it. 6:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Larry.
Can you just imagine how desperate you have to be to destroy your own country to stay in power?
Yes.
I know where you're going with this. I want to deviate just a bit. Aurora, Colorado. I'm sorry, I have zero sympathy for those residents. For your audience, may not know, because the media is trying to do a really good job of quelching the story. Venezuelan gangs are taking over apartment complexes and kicking out the people who live there to put in more illegals.
Now, Larry, why? I'm just curious. Why don't you have sympathy for the people in Aurora?
Interview? Well, we decided to make this a sanctuary city, and we welcomed them in, and we gave them the hotels, and now they're doing this. I'm like, are you kidding? You couldn't see this coming? You know, if you vote for your own destruction, how can I sympathize? It's one thing for these devious politicians to do it, but when the citizenry says, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea, bring them more in," you know, it happened to me when I lived in Belmont. They decided they didn't want to call it a sanctuary city because, you know, that's too, I don't know, negative connotation. So they decided to call it a welcoming city. I'm like, a rose by any other name still smells like crap. It's happening in Aurora, it's happening in California, and God knows where else it's happening. And if you watch the videos, these guys have got guns and high-powered guns that, you know, Tim Walz took to war. Where did they get them?
No, Larry, look, I completely agree with you. Look, it's an incredible story. It's something I never thought I would see in the United States of America. I mean, the images are shocking. So you're right. Aurora, Colorado. By the way, from everything I've read and heard, I've never been to Colorado, but I know people who have. And, you know, Aurora's like it's Denver. I mean, it's right there. It's right next to Denver. And from everything I've heard, people say, look, Jeff, 5, 10, 15 years ago, it was a beautiful working class neighborhood. You could raise your family there. It was peaceful. It was safe. And you're right. They became a sanctuary city, and they thought they're going to, you know, be all about diversity and equity and inclusion and allow all these illegals to pour in. And within the last 5 years, especially the last 4 years under Biden, it's become a third world hellhole. And so these Venezuelan gangs, literally gangbangers, are now occupying apartment building after apartment building after apartment building. And you see them. You're right. They got some real firepower. I mean, they're Glocks, AK-47s, AR-15s, AR-15s, Glocks. I saw one guy with an Uzi. How the hell he got an Uzi? But he's got an Uzi. And they're literally going floor to floor. And they're just kicking out all the tenants, all the residents. They've cleaned them all out. Every single one of them. And they've brought in other illegals. They're dealing drugs. They're engaging in extortion, drug dealing. They've even changed the locks on the buildings. So they've kicked the owner out. The owners can't even get into their buildings. And that loser mayor says it's not as bad as the media is making it out to be. There's not really an issue. The police chief, I don't know, Larry, if you saw this, the police chief says, well, they haven't taken over the buildings completely. And the residents are all like, we're out on the streets. They came in at gunpoint and they said, you know, your life or get out. And the residents are saying, it's horrifying. Have you seen the interviews? Cars riddled with bullets. They go, you know, my husband's car riddled with bullets. My car riddled with bullets. We're just getting that. This is Caracas. They go, Venezuela's come here. We're gone. And now, apparently, they're spreading across Aurora. Soon they're going to take over the whole damn place. Now, Larry, today, Aurora, tomorrow, Chicago. Listen to this, Larry. Okay, I want you to hear this because you're going to say, come on, Jeff. No, not in Chicago. Okay, so they've gone from Aurora. Listen now to this. They're now Venezuelan gangbangers, illegals, all of them. By the way, to all you liberals, you brought them in. You brought them in. Okay, this is what's coming right now through the southern border, and you keep bringing them in. They're now taking over entire apartment complexes in Chicago. In Chicago. Listen now to this. Here's a 911 call. About 32, there's an army of them, armed Venezuelans. Okay, gangs. Again, with the Glocks, the heavy weaponry, the AR-15s, the Uzis. And they're going floor to floor, apartment to apartment. And they're kicking out all the residents. And they're bringing in illegals. This is not your country anymore. This is our country. Roll cut. Here's a complaint to 911. Roll cut 17, Mike.
Unit 3, I'm citywide person with a gun, 6124 South King Drive. Caller says 32 Venezuelans are trespassing the building, showing guns in the courtyard, and they have motorcycles in the courtyard as well. All stairwells are filled. Nothing further, zone clear.
Hey, I'm sorry, you headed over to the shot putter or to the 6124 on King for the migrants?
On King Drive.
All right, 10-4. There's another available unit to arrive at 310. We had multiple calls. First with the gun, 6124 South King. Also came over to disturbance large gathering. Said to be 32 Venezuelans trespassing in the building property, showing guns in the courtyard. They have motorcycles in the courtway, all stairwells filled. And nothing further.
There you go. Huh, Larry? Just another day in America, huh? 32 Venezuelan gangbangers with the guns, motorcycles, clearing out apartment complexes, terrorizing residents, clearing them out and then bringing in illegals, dealing drugs, extortion, blackmail, kidnapping, human trafficking, sexual slavery. Hey, Larry, look at diversity. It's our strength, Larry. Look what they've done. Look they're making this country so much better, Larry. Larry, look at the compassion. Look at the inclusion. Look at the equity, Larry. It's beautiful. It's morning in America, Larry.
I'm speaking, Jeff. I'm speaking now. No, sorry. So, first thing, I can answer your question. Where do you get the Uzis? If CBP isn't checking these guys at the border and they're just giving them free passes, do you think they're searching these people?
No.
That's how the guns are coming across. You know, that's actually, if you think about it, that's actually Obama's wet dream was that, Operation Fast and Furious is where they're shipping the guns down to bring them across the border to prove there's a gun problem. Now they don't even care. If you ever have an argument with a liberal again, ask them, name me one community, one neighborhood where they're invaded by illegals and the neighborhood actually improved.
Oh, they can't. See, but Larry, this is you're completely right. Look, every neighborhood that has illegals becomes a third world hellhole. I'm just sorry, but that's a fact. Some are a little worse, some are much worse, but they always get worse. Okay? It says you're completely right. The neighborhood goes right down the toilet. I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. You invite the third world, you become the third world. But this is the scary thing, Larry. You can't argue with liberals. You show them Aurora, Colorado, and they act like it's like talking to a wall. You show them Chicago, it's like talking to a wall. You show them New York, 75% now of all crime in Midtown Manhattan. I'm talking serious murders, rapes, carjackings, burglaries, all committed by illegals now. And keep on coming them in, Larry. It's like talking to a zombie. Final word to you, Larry.
Well, I watched one interview where there's a mom saying that all the moms have to get together and they carry tasers, pepper spray. A couple have actually had to, buy legal guns just to take the kids to the park. And I'm sitting there scratching my head going, I really am not convinced that this is enough to make them change their vote. It's insane.
I agree. Larry, I agree. That's the thing. It's like they never say, why should we be bringing tasers or pepper spray to go to the park? Why don't we have safe streets? Why don't we secure the border? Why don't we start deporting these illegals? You know what? Let's go to the park without pepper spray or tasers. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, but you see, that would mean being a mean person. That would mean, hey, you're with the evil orange man. Hey, that means you're a Nazi now. You're a fascist. Liberalism is a mental disorder. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Yeah, why don't you ask Alexa whether you should vote for Trump or not? I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that story, I promise, later. You want to talk about blatant election interference by Amazon. Holy shamoly. So, I mean, I'm going to get to that, I promise. And the Philadelphia Eagles story. If you're asking me, Jeff, what? Kamala Harris's people are lying, claiming that the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL football team, they're huge in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania, that they're actually supporting Kamala, which is a complete lie. And they're even doing counterfeit political ads across Philadelphia, saying, oh, yeah, Harris is, the Eagles love Harris. No, they don't. So I'm going to get to all of this. I mean, this is the dirtiest election campaign run by a major presidential candidate I have ever seen. But let's go back to illegal immigration and voter fraud. They're now nakedly trying to steal it. Do you think they will succeed in November? Faith in the great state of Maine. Thanks for holding, Faith, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Faith.
I want to do a shout out to Eddie and Rita from Sebago. We're friends with them because the first day my husband worked for them, he had Kuhner blasting, and we've been best friends ever since.
Oh, great!
But, yeah,
by the way, you have a wonderful name, Faith. Your parents blessed you with a beautiful name.
Didn't as a kid, but I do now. But yeah, what you're talking about is so heart wrenching, and I don't know. I'm trying not to give up hope, but if Trump does get it, do you think that possibly a lot will self-deport if we stop giving them fun, keeping them here? Or how will we get rid of them?
Well, no, Faith, look, I think you put your finger on it. If we stop giving them welfare benefits and free hotels and free food, I mean, it's not free. We're all paying for it. But taxpayer, for them, it's free. Taxpayer-funded food and taxpayer-funded benefits and taxpayer-funded hotels, many millions of them will self-deport. I think the simple fact of Trump winning is going to lead millions to go back. And Trump is a man of his word. The thing about President Trump is when he says he's going to do something, he does it. Every promise that he made, he kept. Every single one. And when he says we're going to have the largest deportation of illegal aliens in the history of our country, I believe him. In fact, I know what the plan is. And I know exactly the phases of the plan. So are they going to get rid of, all 30 million? I don't know. But many, many, many are going to be gone. And many will self-deport. And that's why what Harris is doing is she's nakedly bribing illegals to vote. That's why the centerpiece of her election campaign, if you pay attention to her, is amnesty for all illegals, free health care for all illegals, free college tuition for all illegals. And now she's teaming up with Gavin Newsom in California. She wants to give illegals essentially a free house. I'm not kidding, literally. Zero interest on for any loan, no down payment, and up to $150,000 for an illegal to buy their own home. Now, I don't know about you, Faith, but nobody ever gave me a free house. Did you ever get zero interest down? I never got zero interest down. I never got no down payment. So she's telling the illegals as clearly as she can possibly tell them, wink, wink, vote for me and you're going to get everything. And I'm going to have the dumb gringo, the dumb taxpayer pay for it. You want amnesty? You got it. Medicare for all, like for all of you, free health care? You got it. Free college? You got it. A house? You got it. So they know if they lose this election, they lose everything. And that's why Trump is warning us. We're not going to get a second crack. We lose this time in November. They're going to follow through with amnesty, and that's it. This country's over. They will consolidate one-party Democratic rule. Now, do I think the illegals can be pushed out of our country and many of them, self-deported or deported? Absolutely. We have to do it. We have no choice. There are two things that Trump has to do when he wins. He has to. I know he wants to secure the border and drill, baby, drill. Of course. But he's got to do two things within 100 days. Lightning speed. It's got to be a blitzkrieg. Boom, 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 boom. Start the largest deportation in American history of illegal aliens and pass the SAVE Act. If Congress won't do it, he has to do it. We have to restore election integrity. Only U.S. citizens can vote in our elections. All non-citizens must be purged from the voting rolls. We must have voter ID, period. Same day voting, in-person voting, no more of this mail-in balloting, ballot harvesting, ballot trafficking, free and fair elections. Now, if he just does that, the country's saved because we can fight again. But we have to win in November to do it. Now, and this is why I'm urging everybody, you have to get involved. You can't sit on the sidelines. I don't care what it is. Hold signs, go knock door to door, be a poll watcher, be a volunteer for the Trump campaign. Do whatever your strength is. But the stakes are so high, you cannot sit on the sidelines and just think voting is enough. It's not enough. Everybody, and I'm including myself, we have to do everything we can to win in November. Hillary in the great state of Maryland, and thank you for that call, Faith. Hillary in the great state of Maryland. Thanks for holding, Hillary, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi,
Hillary. About this Aurora thing, and now in Chicago, I just, I shouldn't just wait to call you when I'm, hopping mad, because then I always sound like a doomer and gloomer. But I wonder, what happened to America, and where are the men of America? Before the Constitution talks about the fact that men were armed and had a militia, and it was their duty to defend the nation from invasion. There's also, the Second Amendment is for personal protection. It's also to take out a tyrannical government if need be. The founders never wanted a standing army. So constitutionally, it's, I believe, every American's duty to defend their nation from invasion. And so I guess I just wonder if there isn't a reason to use the Second Amendment as it was intended. If this is a reason, if there was any. I wonder how the men of this community, and communities really all across America, because I think this is going to spread. But how is it that they're wringing their hands? The authorities, the law enforcement won't do anything. The National Guard hasn't been called out. Why will men of this country not step up and do what needs to be done to take out these marauding, illegals that are just terrorizing people? I just don't understand why we're sitting on the sidelines, allowing this to happen, and sitting around like a bunch of crybabies talking about it instead of doing what needs to be done. And before anybody, accuses me of sounding like a nutcase, this is not out of the realm of what's constitutional, what's proper, and what is completely legal to do, which is
Hillary,
defend your nation from invasion.
Hillary, I'll be brutally honest with you, okay? Like I'm in the confessional. I'm not trying to stroke your ego. I'm really being as honest as I can possibly be. You're the exact opposite of a nut. You have imminent common sense. You're eminently sensible. You're a veteran. You served our country. You're one of our most intelligent callers. Frankly, I wish you'd call a little bit more often, but that's okay. I don't want to pressure you to do something you don't want to do. But no, you're completely right. And look, the men of this country have, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, have been emasculated. There has been a war on manhood, toxic masculinity. That's all over school. My son, who's 14 years old, and his friends, okay, his male friends, they're 13, 14, 15. All they do, they don't even know my politics. My son does, but no, his friends don't know my politics. They're just spontaneously, they're playing football or sports or whatever. I go, hey guys, how are you? And I'll say, hey, you guys want some water, or you want some Diet Coke, or can I get you guys something? And they'll just start telling me how they love to play with Ashton on our street because they're not allowed to be boys. They're just volunteering this to me. They go, we're not allowed to be boys at school. That to play football it's toxic masculinity. To want to go fishing, to want to go hunting, to I don't know, whatever, all kinds of things that boys do or traditionally used to do. This is all verboten. This is forbidden. Oh my God. You want to go hunting? You mean you want to hold a gun? What are you, some kind of a mass school shooter? And they hate it. They deeply resent it. They feel profoundly persecuted and discriminated against. They see how other boys are encouraged, openly encouraged, to wear lipstick, to wear earrings, to wear wigs, to be a woman, to act like a woman, to pretend that they're women, that they're females. That transgenderism, the conformity now in school for boys to dress like girls and pretend to be girls is huge. It's huge. Like on a level that you and I can't imagine. And so there's a war on manhood. But I'll tell you something else, Hillary, and I really want your take on this, so please don't drop. Look, what is Colorado known for? Okay, really, recent last couple of years, they legalized marijuana. It's a stoner state now. And I don't just mean they legalized weed like here in Massachusetts. You can smoke it in Denver. You can smoke it in Aurora. You can smoke it publicly. You can get stoned on the street, on the sidewalk, all day, all night. Nobody can do anything to you. It has gotten so bad in Colorado. I'm just using Denver as the example, that people tell me Denver used to be a great city. They go, it stinks. It reeks because everybody is getting high in public, in the parks, wherever. They're just getting stoned in front of kids. They're just getting stoned. Everybody's stoned. Now, what happened? And remember how they sold it to us, Hillary. Oh, if a person in his living room or her living room, if they want to get high, how is this the government's business? Remember, that's how they sold it to us. Well, they're not getting high in the living room. They're getting high outside. They're getting high in parking lots. They're getting high in parks. They're getting high on the sidewalk. To the point now that they say you can't walk through Denver. I'm telling you, you're going to throw up because the stench, the smell is so bad. Weed is everywhere. Now, if you really want to know the most prophetic book of the 20th century, it wasn't George Orwell's 1984. Amazing as it is. Incredible. I urge everybody to read it. Read Aldous Huxley. He was friends with Orwell. It's a book, it's a novel called Brave New World. It's an incredible read. It's a great novel. And he predicted the future, even more than Orwell. And he said this. He says the way governments are going to oppress and control their population is not so much through brute police state terror and censorship, the way Orwell talked about. He said, but through drugs. Drugs, chemicals, sex, hallucinogenics. And he says what they're going to do is create a completely passive, complacent, hedonistic society where all people want to do is pleasure. Watch TV, watch the screen all day, get high, and have sex. That's it. And they'll allow you to do anything. Take away all their rights, all their freedoms. You can take all their money. You can take away everything they have. They don't care. As long as you keep giving them their drugs, you keep giving them their sex, and you keep giving them their TVs and their entertainment. It's an incredibly powerful, very well written book. And the term Brave New World, where basically drugs, they're going to use drugs and sex essentially to control the population. That's what they've done to us. You know, people ask me, where's the outrage? Everybody's stoned. People are saying, Jeff, something has changed in the American public. People don't get upset like they used to. People don't get involved like they used to. Nobody's reacting to anything because they're all stoned. Or they're on mind-altering drugs, or they're on all kinds of mental health medication, or they're on X, they're on Twitter, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, they're watching 4, 6, 8 hours a day of television, nonstop, mind-numbing entertainment, mind-numbing drugs. And look, Hillary, forget the men for a second. Last point, and I want to go to you. Women in Aurora, Colorado, women who have been evicted from their apartments by marauding Venezuelan gangs who held a gun to their face and said, your life or get out, whose cars have been riddled with bullets, are the very same ones who voted for Aurora to be a sanctuary city. And when you ask them, would you do it again? They say yes. So I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's that line from the Republican National Convention. They're chickens for Kentucky Fried Chicken, chickens for KFC. They kick you out of your home. They threaten to murder you. They shoot up your car. And you're lucky to be alive. And when asked, would you do it all over again? Yes. Hillary, I don't know what to say. Blame the men? Sure, of course, I'm with you. But blame the voters. Blame the person that's getting evicted. And the only thing they have to say is, where's the mayor? That's their answer. Well, where's the mayor? But you voted for the mayor. Drugs. I'm telling you, you look at many of them, they're all on weed, they're all on marijuana, they're all on some kind of a substance. And it destroys their brain and their ability to think and act rationally and function logically. Hillary, what say you?
I say that's, like Ann Coulter would say, I say that's a good argument to abolish the 19th Amendment. And I mean, I'm serious. I know if you look at these maps of the electorate, they've got like maps of the United States, if just men voted, if just women voted, if just blacks voted, if just this and every group, you know. And invariably, women they vote crazily. They vote left. I mean, married women vote a little bit more rationally than unmarried women. But it makes no sense. And, the drug thing you were talking about, it's social engineering. It's their way of promoting degeneracy instead of, making degeneracy a societal norm as opposed to virtue and promoting virtue. It's a slow, steady ebbing away of any societal norms that we used to have. And I'll remind you one last thing, because I know you probably have to go, but I know you used to fill in for Mike Savage, and that's how I got hip to you. But I remember him saying, and this is in New York, he lived in New York when he was in high school. He used to take his rifle to school because they had a rifle club in New York City. So that just shows you the slow progression, as you were talking about your son Ashton, and men have been feminized. It's the same way. I mean, if you look just back, 40, 50 years, it's a completely different culture, different people, different attitudes.
Well, that's the thing. You see, a different culture produces a different people, produces a different nation. And that's what we're watching. Look, I was always against the legalization of marijuana. I predicted this was going to happen. And it's spreading now in state after state. And look, Hillary, really think about it, okay? I mean, how many times we've seen this? A guy who's able to work is instead at home, getting high, smoking weed, watching Jerry Springer. And that's all he does all day. Yeah, man. Hold on. Hey, there's a guy with a gun, man. Yeah, no, seriously. Hey, man, Jerry. Hey, Jerry, look, man. He's in there with the gun. He's waving it at our face, man. You want us out, man? Well, now? Okay, man. Hold on, man. Let me just get my bong. Okay, man. I mean, that's Stoner Nation. That's why Aurora's not doing anything, because they're all stoned. And that's what weed does. Weed makes people complacent. Weed makes people docile. Weed makes people... Look, I know I have friends in Canada. Okay, Justin Trudeau legalized marijuana for the whole country. I said, how come there's not more outrage and uproar against Justin Trudeau? He's killing you guys up there. He goes, Jeff, half the country's too stoned to even recognize anything. Everybody's getting high. Everybody's getting high. They're smoking up and they're getting high. And so to me, I always thought this was going to be a disaster, and here we are. Hillary, thank you as always for that call. Tom in Watertown, thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for getting my call.
Hi, Tom.
I don't know, why isn't the Supreme Court stepping in? It was very unpopular in 1954 when they integrated the schools on paper. It couldn't happen until 6 or 7 years later, because the country, it would have been worse than it was. Everybody, but they made the Communist Party illegal around 1955. We have a party trying to destroy the country. That's why they were able to make the Communist Party illegal. It had as its mission the destruction of all non-communists.
Oh, I agree. No, look, Tom, you're right. The Supreme Court made some very tough decisions in the 1950s, and they didn't care how unpopular it was, because it was the right thing to do. And the Democrat Party is now the Democrat Communist Party. And they are now the enemy of America. There's no question. 720 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, tremendous reaction from the exchange I had with Hillary, her call, and what she said and what I said. Okay, so very quickly, 70470 if you want to text the Kuhner man, 70470. This is from 602. Jeff, you are completely right about Aldous Huxley's novel, Brave New World. It was absolutely brilliant. Huxley called what you're describing the soma, as in the big sleep. That the way governments would control their population is through drugs, chemicals that they give to people, to hallucinogenics, sex, entertainment, that, in other words, use pleasure and drugs to control and dominate people's lives. And that's pretty much, take Aurora, Colorado. Take Aurora. Take much of the country now. They're just too stoned to notice. Okay, this is from 781. Jeff, as for all this discussion about voter fraud, the terrifying reality is that by Election Day, if the numbers in November reflect those in 2020, 80% of the ballots will have already been cast via mail-in balloting and ballot harvesting. In other words, cast in secret, making it virtually impossible to monitor for fraud. That's why the Democrats are so arrogant and corrupt. And will the Democrats succeed in this deal? Yes. Why? Because we do nothing. The Democrats have learned that. And the ratchet goes in one direction. We talk a lot, but they will only cease when they fear us. And they cackle at us. Literally cackle at us. I wish I could say I disagree, 781, but I can't. Okay, one last one. This is from 803. Jeff, if we stop funding all of these illegal aliens and start kicking them out of these hotels, stopping all their benefits, we're going to have a big problem on our hands. There will be hordes of people stealing, squatting, creating chaos on our streets and in our country. This is the mess the Democrats have created from day one, and undoing this is going to require a lot of work and a lot of expense. It's cheaper to offer them a flight home. Well, you see, now we have the added dilemma, and many of you are pointing this out to the Kuhner man on the text line, emails, and via messenger. Jeff, what are we going to do with all these armed illegals? And all these gangbangers now that have infiltrated our country. Look at Chicago. Look at Aurora. I could go on and on. Look at New York City. Look at Boston. Look at L.A. You have no-go zones now. Literally no-go zones in the United States. So when Trump brings in the deportation force, what if they start shooting back? I'm not trying to create a fear scenario. I'm just saying this is something you have to realistically look at. And that's why the Democrats are doing it. They want to make it almost impossible to ever deport these illegals. They want to make it as impossible for Trump, should he win, to start to deport illegal aliens and take our country back. This is pure, naked sabotage and treason. 617-266-6868. Jeff on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Good morning.
Hi, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff, for taking my call.
My pleasure.
So one thing you've been talking about this morning about the influx of illegals coming across the country and them potentially turning into voters here. One thing I want to encourage your listeners to do is to go to mystates, FAITH.org, which is an organization that has, over the last couple of years, determined that there are at least 60 million Christians in the United States. Out of that 60 million, maybe 40 million are registered to vote. And out of that 40 million that are registered, approximately 20 million actually voted in the 2020 election. So the way this works is you go on myfaith.org. They have a list of those 60 million Christians. They have a formed letter that you can print off. You can choose names. You can take 25 names, say, address 25 envelopes, print off those letters, put those letters in the envelope, put a stamp on it, pray over it, and send it out to encourage Christians to vote. If Christians voted, we would not be in the position that we're currently in now. So I just want to just put that out there so they can get on the airwaves so people can get behind this.
Jeff, you are completely correct. And if I can, and it's not just Christians. You're right. You're like, as I like to say, you're 1,000% correct. I can't tell you how many people I know don't vote. It boggles my mind. Outside of, devout Christians, okay, what you're talking about. How many people just stay home and say, it doesn't matter. There's no difference. They're all crooks. All of them, every single one of them. I'm like, hey, buddy, okay. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's, it's your future. It's your country. If you want to flush it down the toilet, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Look, the choice this November couldn't be clearer, couldn't be more stark. America or communism? Freedom or Venezuela? It's really now. This is it. If this won't get you to vote, I don't know what will. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, honestly, there's so much news happening that normally something like this would be huge. But because with the election, this invasion of illegals, again, another massive surge orchestrated directly now by Comrade Kamala Harris and the Mexican government just in time for the election, or now these Venezuelan gangs who are occupying, taking over. These are armed takeovers of apartment buildings and apartment complexes, not just in Aurora, Colorado, but now in Chicago and other places around the country. And Democrat mayors, Democrat governors, completely paralyzed, refusing to do a thing to stop any of this. We talked about the Democrat Party now really becoming the Democrat Communist Party of the United States. And that's what it really is. In New York State, just 30 seconds because I don't want to get off topic. In the state of New York, I want you to listen to this. The former deputy chief of staff to Governor Kathy Hochul, the former DEI chief for then Governor Andrew Cuomo, has turned out to be an agent for the Communist Chinese Party. She was just arrested yesterday. She was at the highest echelons of the Democratic Party under Cuomo and then under Hochul. And notice how she was aggressively pushing DEI. That's exactly what the Chinese regime in Beijing wants. They're the ones funding a lot of these DEI initiatives here in the United States, especially in universities and schools. Why? To divide us, to pit us against each other, to bring in socialism, Marxism, racial identity politics, to balkanize our country. And she was the key instigator of this DEI initiative up in New York State under Cuomo and then under Hochul. And it turns out, she's an agent of the CCP. She's an agent of the Communist Chinese Party. She's just been arrested. You can't make this up. Now, I'm telling you, she's not the only one. I guarantee you she's not the only one. You have members of Congress sleeping with Chinese spies and handing over sensitive classified information and documents to them. Eric Swalwell, case numero uno, nothing happened to him. Joe Biden was an agent of Communist China. Tim Walz, an agent of Communist China. He went there 30 times. He taught there. He's a self-avowed Maoist. His own brother has now come out and said, not only is my brother a Marxist idiot, he goes, you realize he's a fellow traveler. He admires the Chinese Communist Party. He's going to be doing their bidding should he become vice president. Hello. The Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. And you know me, I'm very laid back about the poll question. If Kuhner Country, you vote, great. If not, I understand you have a lot to do. On this one, if you could all do me a favor, I would love for as many of you to vote and participate because it's going to give me a real sense of how this election is going to turn. So I need as many of you to vote, please. It goes right to the issue of voter fraud. And it goes right to the issue of how we're going to vote in this election. And so, how do you plan to vote for the election on November 5th? A, mail-in balloting. B, in person. Trump, the RNC, is urging people to vote via mail-in balloting to cash in these votes early so they can focus on more undecided voters or swing voters and not have to keep going to people to convince them to vote. And even though they're already going to vote for Trump, so they'd rather that, people vote early and vote through mail-in balloting, beat the Democrats at their own game. But I want to know from you, how do you plan to vote? Now, let me be honest with you. I understand all the arguments Trump is making. I always vote in person. I voted in person yesterday on primary day, and Grace and I, we did it yesterday, and we'll do it again on November 5th. It's just, I don't like to vote by mail. I'm against it in principle. I won't do it. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Will you, A, vote by mail? In other words, this is what Trump and the RNC actually want us to do. Or B, are you a traditionalist, a purist like the Kuhner man? Will you vote in person? A or B, I would love for all of you to vote. I want to know how you all plan to vote. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn is in national ER. You can also vote via X. I'm very active on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report. It's all one word. At the Kuhner Report, Kuhn is in national ER. Will you vote by mail, A, or in person, B? Denise in Beverly. Okay, let's see if we can reconnect with Denise. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
How you doing, Jeff? Hey, to follow up with Hillary, she's from Maryland, correct?
Yes.
Okay. They have a state defense force. This is provided by the Compact Clause of the Constitution. Officially, it was always there, but officially in 1917, 1918, many states, because of World War I, provided state defense forces. They are not part of the National Guard. They cannot be called up by the federal government, the president, etc. They are commanded by the governor. They are there for insurrections, all kinds of things. Nowadays, it's formal things, parades, etc., like a civil defense force, actually. However, they are military authorized as a militia to defend things like insurrections. You talk about Colorado, they have like one of the larger ones, by the way, as does Maryland. Okay, in World War II, 1943, there were 170,000 people in the state defense forces of 37 states in the United States. This is a tool that's available for all the red states, okay, especially to deal with things if it happens to them, like in Colorado, etc. Okay, all that has to happen is the governor simply has to okay it. What they should be doing, and I don't know what the status is across the country now. There are about 19 or 20 states. Puerto Rico even has one. They should be training their people technically. By the way, they're there to augment the National Guard. What I mean by that is they would assist them. However, they are not part of the National Guard.
No, I get it. And Nick, you're making an excellent point, but I want to ask you this, because the governor in Colorado is useless. Okay, he's utterly useless. Say you're the mayor of Aurora. What would you do? You essentially now have an armed takeover of a part of your city. I mean, this is not even just one apartment complex now. These are multiple apartment complex buildings. They're going building by building by building. They're cleaning out all the residents. It's like ethnic cleansing, really. At gunpoint, I told you, look at the pictures. Don't take my word for it. They got long guns. They got AR-15. They got Uzis. And they're just driving the residents out, shooting up their cars. They're replacing them with illegals. They've even changed the locks on the buildings. So the owner is like calling the mayor, and he's saying, all my tenants are gone. All my, my renters are gone. And I can't even get into my own building. The Venezuelan gangs have it. So, if you're the mayor, is it just call in the police, call in the state police, go in heavy, and take back those buildings by force? Is that his only alternative at this point, Nick?
I would think so, but they're not going to. He should, but the governor would have to authorize that, unfortunately. Hey, by the way, Jeff, it's almost like capitalism. Okay, the nature of the people and their needs will determine what's going to happen in states like that. If it goes to hell, it will be because of them. By the way, you voted yesterday, right, Jeff?
Yes.
What was the color of the stripe on the top of your ballot, the Republican ballot?
Wasn't it blue?
Yes, it was. and the Democratic one was red. Way to go, Galvin. What a rat he is for stupid to think stuff.
Nick, thank you very, very much for that call. By the way, John Deaton won. It wasn't much of a surprise. He had so much money, got a lot of ads, and got a lot of ads on the air. And now it will be John Deaton versus Elizabeth Warren. Okay, more with your calls next. 7:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I know I played it earlier, but let me just play it again, because many of you are, Kuhner, I can't believe that 911 call. Could you play it again, Kuhner, man? Ask and you shall receive. So, it's no longer just in Aurora, Colorado. This is incredible. This is one of the most incredible stories I've ever seen. It's like you really feel like you're in Venezuela under that thug Maduro. So it's these gangs, Venezuelan gangbangers, and I mean there are dozens of them. There's an army of them. And they're going apartment after apartment. You can see them. First floor, second floor, third. They're going up the stairs. They're knocking on the doors, kicking on the doors, breaking down doors. They're holding guns to the heads of residents. And they're just kicking them out. To every American. I told you, it's like ethnic cleansing. Out, out, out. And they're replacing them with illegals. And they're running, well, they're running drugs, human trafficking, extortion, blackmail, sexual slavery. I mean, the whole thing. And the owners of these complexes are calling the police chief and saying, could you send some police? My tenants are being terrorized. They're being driven out. They're shooting at them. They've shot up all the cars. The cars are riddled. It's like Ukraine. The cars are riddled with bullets. And the police chief, please don't take my word for it. He says, well, they haven't taken over completely. That's his answer. Like what? They haven't taken over the roof? Like, are you saying? Now they've changed the locks on the buildings. So the owner can't even, or the owners can't even get to their own apartment buildings. Okay. This has now spread to Chicago. Okay. Chicago. Now the Venezuelan gangs have taken over apartment complexes there. Same thing. Clean them out. Floor by floor by floor. With the gun. One I told you, with the Uzis. They've got guns, they've got Uzis, and they're just cleaning them out. In one apartment complex alone, as they're now, this is an armed takeover. 32 Venezuelan gangbangers. And they're all carrying guns on motorcycles, and now they're clearing out these apartment complexes. Every gringo, every American, get the hell out. Out, out. And to me, this is a metaphor for what's happening to the whole country. They're cleaning us out as they take over. So somebody starts calling, and now they're getting calls from 911. To 911. 911 dispatchers are getting calls left, right, and center. This is not Colombia. This is not Mexico. This is not El Salvador or Guatemala. This is the United States of America. First, it's Colorado. Now it's Chicago. Roll cut 17, Mike.
Unison 3, I'm citywide for some of the guns, 6124 South King Drive. Caller says 32 Venezuelans are trespassing the building, showing guns in the courtyard, and they have motorcycles in the courtyard as well. All they're filled. Nothing further, zone clear.
Hey, I'm sorry, are you headed over to the shot putter or to the 6124 on King for the migrants?
On King Drive.
All right, 10-4. There's another available unit arrive at 310. We had multiple calls. First with the gun, 6124 South King. Also came over to disturbance large gathering. Said to be 32 Venezuelans trespassing in the building property, showing guns in the courtyard. They have motorcycles in the courtway, all stairwells filled, and nothing further.
See how matter of fact, like it's just, 32 migrants, Venezuelan gangs, they got guns, they're in the courtyard, motorcycles, they're entering the building, nothing further, And everybody's not dead yet. You know, all that's missing. No, really. You know, if you saw the movie Scarface, is for one of these Venezuelan gangbangers, say hello to my little friend. You know, and just boom, boom, boom. Where's the mayor of Chicago? Where's Pritzker, that loser governor of Illinois? Just nothing. This is what happens when you have a sanctuary city and you have a sanctuary state. You invite the third world and you become the third world. 617-266-6868. But no, I'm the extremist. Me, the guy who says, you know, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't have tenants being cleaned out and blackmailed and shot up by illegal Venezuelan gangs. I don't know. Call me crazy. Denise in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Denise, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Denise?
You're so funny. You're a riot. You know, it's funny. I wanted to tell you something about the voter ID, but my son just texted me. He told me if those were Americans doing that, SWAT would have been in there and happy. But I just wanted to say something that I've been calling, like, the legislator's office every week. I call about voter ID. I talk to Joan Lovely's office. I talk to Walsh's office, because those are my senators here where I live in Beverly. And they send me, then they tell me that it's up to the, the committee or whatever. So they give me their phone number. I call them. I talked to them yesterday 3 times, 3 different numbers. And I told them what happened at that motel, and they said that's not true. And I said, well, there's a picture of them, and someone actually heard them talk about, them giving them how to vote and everything. And these are all illegals live in that hotel. He goes, oh, that's not true. And I said, why can't we have voter ID? He goes, well, it's in the bill. I said, don't you think it's a little too late to be in a bill? I said, the voting's for November. I said, it's our president. I said, this is the most important election in the world, and we can't have voter ID. I said, I had to show it at my doctor's office. I said, next time they tell me I need an ID, I'm going to tell them to stick it, because I've had it. I've been fighting this every single day. I talked to Joan Lovely. I talked to Walsh, because they're our legislators. And they keep going back and forth. You need to talk to your legislators. No, you need to talk to this number. So I call those numbers, and I keep going back and forth, and they do nothing.
Denise, if you don't mind, can I ask you a personal question? And if you don't want to answer, I understand. Did you vote yesterday by any chance? Did you vote for the primary?
For Antonellis. And
No, I didn't want to know who you voted for, but so you did vote, correct?
Question the blue and the red ballots. And I said, why ain't the Republicans still red, and why is it? And she goes, oh, they changed it. I said, well, it might confuse the elderly people. Like, maybe someone might just say, I want a Republican ballot, and you hand them a Democrat one or something, or they don't understand. She goes, no, we say it's Republican. She said, it says right on there, it says Republican.
Okay, but Denise, I agree with you. Everything what you're saying is true, but I'm just curious. So you did vote. Did you have to show ID yesterday when you voted?
Oh, they just looked up my name. I had to go to 2 tables, one table, and then they sent me another table. And then they had to look up my name and my address. That was it.
Oh, so you didn't hand over a driver's license or any ID then, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I had a different experience, Denise. So listen to this. I went to vote along with Grace. I'd say about maybe 5:45 in the afternoon, 6 at the absolute latest. I wanted to go earlier. Anyway, long story short, I couldn't get it done earlier, so I had to wait. The kids are back from school. Anyway, long story short, Grace and I said, we got 15 minutes. Let's go vote. We had to show ID at our polling booth. Both Grace and myself, both of us. They said, ID, please. I thought I was going to get a heart attack. I said, oh my God, hell is frozen over. They were looking at me like, what's this guy's problem? I'm like, you're actually asking me for ID? I'm like, oh my God. Oh, where are the Nazi swastikas? Where are the hoods? How come you're not burning crosses? You mean you're asking me to show you my driver's license? And apparently they took my driver's license I don't know what they did with it. They scanned it or whatever it was. Then they asked me, are you Jeff Kuhner? Yes. Give me your address. I gave my address, even though I gave them my ID. And they said, okay, Republican, you're a registered Republican. Yep. Here's your ballot. And off we went. So at least in Rentham, when I voted, I had to show ID. Now, that's why I asked, because I thought, I guess I just assumed they asked it of me. They asked it of everybody, but they didn't ask it of you. The point is this, Denise, in Rentham, they asked it of me and they asked it of Grace, and the sky didn't fall. It wasn't the end of the world. When I pick up prescription medication, I have to show ID. Here, I'm now 55 years old. Now I can start qualifying for certain benefits, AARP. I got to show ID. Renew my license, show ID. Renew my passport, show ID. Check into a hotel or whatever. We went up to Montreal to visit my dad. We stopped off in Vermont. Guess what? I had to show ID. No one died. It's not the end of the world. It's not some civil rights violation. Everybody shows ID. Today, I don't know how you can get by in our society without showing ID. So I'm with you all the way. So Denise, all I'm saying is this. They asked me for my ID. I didn't complain. I handed it over. If it's good enough for Jeff Kuhner in Rentham, it's good enough for Denise in Beverly, and it's good enough for anybody else anywhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or anywhere in the United States. Am I wrong, Denise?
I even asked them if the machine was okay before I put it in. I'm just, honest to God, I said, you sure this ain't rigged? I'm not kidding. I don't care what I say to people anymore. I've had it. I've just had it.
Good for you. Good for you. Denise, thank you very much for that call. By the way, I swear to you, okay, Grace is going to be on in an hour. I'm going to ask her, okay, because if you don't believe me, 59 minutes to be exact. She's going to be on at 9 o'clock. I'm going to, watch, she never trusts the machines. Every time we vote, doesn't matter, primary, general election, every time we vote, she grills the guy over the machine. How do you know it's really counting my vote? How do you know it's not changing the vote? What guarantee, what assurance do I have? And they always do this big, long song and dance, but they can never properly answer her question. So I don't even like the machine counting. Paper ballots, count by hand, with representatives of each party watching the count. To me, that's the way we used to do it. That's the fairest, best way to do it. But that's me. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call, Jeff.
My pleasure, Dan.
Jeff, I don't want to be an alarmist, but I'm telling you right now, in my mind, when I listen to Kamala Harris and she says, I want to reimagine law and order, and I think to myself, isn't law and order what keeps peace in this country? And then I get this uneasy feeling in my stomach every time I hear about all of what's going on, that this country is cultivating its own chaos in an eventual coup against us that basically, I hate to say it, but in the catastrophe, they seem to utilize it very, very easily as far as implementing the things that they want to implement. And like, for example, maybe a digital currency, maybe a digital identification, a lot of things that would completely take our freedoms and put control right entirely into their hands. You know, you've got a person in Kamala Harris that, you know, she's been there almost 4 years. She's not stopping any wars. She's not even tried to stop any wars. She's not even tried to stop anybody walking through the borders. And then you start to hear that all of this, you know, MS-13 and these Venezuelan thugs are all over the place, and they are all in these cities that are, you know, liberal cities. And let's face it. Let's face this. This is chaos and anarchy at our doorstep. And this is what we're going to invite with Kamala and no balls walls. And I'm telling you right now, we're on a precipice. This country's on a precipice, and we're going to lose it. We're going to lose our freedom. We're going to lose our currency. We could be in a war. I mean, we've got defunding of the police. You know, they want to fool around with law and order. They've got transgender. They've got boys and women's sports, men and women's sports. We are in a perversion. And it's a transition. That's basically what it is. It's a transition into something that we don't even recognize. Half the people are even unaware of in this country. The left will completely be swept away when all of this stuff begins to really happen in their, what I would call an Obama fourth term. And I can tell you, Jeff, it scares me. It should scare every single listener, and it should scare the liberals, because you know what? You don't see it coming. We all do. Who's it going to wipe right off their feet? It's going to wipe them off their feet, because as we go, they go.
Well, you know, Dan, I agree with everything what you're saying. I don't want you to misunderstand, what I'm about to say, because I completely agree with you. I think your diagnosis is dead on. I think your prediction is dead on. The only slight disagreement I have, and I think you're just being more charitable than I am, is you say, well, this is going to sweep the liberals off their feet. They won't see it coming. I used to think that, Dan. I don't think that anymore. I genuinely believe they know what's coming. They love what's coming. They welcome what's coming. They want what's coming. I can't read the evidence now any other way. Look, again, let's just go back to Aurora for a second. It's a sanctuary city. It's a suburb. It's a sanctuary city. They voted for this. And now that it's happening, the mayor isn't doing a thing. The police chief isn't doing a thing. The governor isn't doing a thing. The Biden regime isn't doing a thing. Liberals all across Aurora just shrug their shoulders and, okay, they take over apartment complexes. What are you going to do? I'm telling you, that's their reaction. Many of the residents, they just shrug their shoulders. Well, okay, where am I? The only thing is, where do I live now? I'm telling you, that's their response. Look it up. I don't want you to take my word for it. I mean, some are angry. I'm not saying some aren't angry. Some are frightened. They're angry. They're scared. They're terrorized. But others are just like, well, that's just, hey, Venezuelan gangs come, and this is diversity. And if this is the price of diversity and inclusion and compassion, if this is what it is to be in a diverse America, then let them come over and take over the apartment complexes and riddle our car with bullets. To me, what is stunning, Dan, nobody's pushing back. It's the passivity. It's the compliance. It's all, no one, not one resident said, get the hell out of my apartment. Nobody, not one police officer said, this is terrorism. This is true armed insurrection, gangsterism, terrorism, vigilante gang violence, an armed takeover of our city. We're going in guns blazing. We're going to take these criminals and hoodlums and cartels out. No, it's like in Mexico. It's like in Venezuela. It's like in much of the third world. Well, they run the show and they call the shots. And what are you going to do? That's just what it is. It is what it is. And, that's all. It's the lack of resistance in Chicago, in Aurora, all over the country. And I go back to a call, I think it was Larry. Look, I'm reading the New York Post, and now crime is at an all-time high. 75% of all crime, 75% of all crime in Midtown Manhattan, which is really the migrant epicenter, okay, in New York City. It's all illegals. You got murders up, rapes up, assaults up, muggings up, carjackings up, burglaries up. Everything is up. And this is the response of these. The liberals live there. They see it. They feel it. They're the ones being mugged, shot, and raped. And their response is not secure the damn border and sanctuary city policies and start deporting these illegal thugs and criminals. Nope. No, Dan. Their response is, we need pepper spray and we need tasers. And this is the price of diversity. So, to be honest, Dan, what I've concluded is it's not just that liberalism is a mental disorder, which it is. I believe now liberalism is a form of suicide. I believe, in all honesty, I'm being candid with you. I think it's a cult. I think these people are crazy. I think they're fanatics. I think they hate themselves at a very profound level. I think there's something seriously psychologically wrong with them. And I believe now it is the ideology of suicide. I can't read the evidence any other way. Dan, if someone comes into your apartment that you're paying rent for and holds you up at gunpoint, you, your wife, and your children, and says you've got 30 seconds to clear out or I massacre everybody, and you go outside and they've shot up your car and they're dealing cocaine and fentanyl and heroin and they're trafficking in children and in women who are being trafficked for sex, and they're kicking everybody out of their apartment, is your reaction going to be, well, that's just the way it is, Jeff? Jeff, that's the price of diversity, Jeff. Jeff, inclusion. Just don't call me racist, Jeff. I voted for this. I want this. Let's keep it going. Would that be your response, Dan? I'm serious. Or would it be, this is a takeover, this is an invasion, and we got to fight back? What say you, Dan?
Well, you've laid it out pretty well. Let's face it. You got a gun pointing in your face. You call up the mayor, and the mayor tells you, this isn't happening. You're out of your mind. And then you say to yourself, the establishment is not behind me. What do I do now? So what you're describing is the failure of the establishment to protect the people. And I'm going to tell you right now, once that happens, you're looking at collapse, an infrastructure collapse. Because when you don't have the state behind you, which is apparently, and we know that it's not, then you're going to be looking at anarchy. You're going to be looking at more of what's going on all around the country is going to happen. And then when something really happens where maybe we get into a third world war and, the grid gets shut down, then we'll have real chaos. And then it's too late.
Dan, thank you very much for that call. Look, the country's hanging by a thread. Now, I think we can save it. I think we can restore it. I believe Trump's going to win. But we've got 60 days now. 60 days. It's a sprint. We've got to win. Period. Full stop. 20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, I'm getting kind of mixed messages anyway, coming in from many of you in the audience. So many of you are saying, I'm just going to point out random towns. Jeff, Foxborough, they didn't ask me for my ID. Quincy, they didn't ask me for my ID. Just going down the list. Saugus didn't ask for my ID. However, Draycote, yes. Leominster, yes. Here, this is from Larry. Jeff, I voted Friday. So early voting. They put my license in the scanner to pair me to my address. Yeah, they did the exact same thing to me yesterday, Larry. So in some towns they did. Again, it's mixed. Some towns yes, some towns no. So my point is just this. Larry didn't die. The person who messaged me from Draycote, that person, hey, okay, here's my ID. I showed my ID. Grace showed her ID. Nobody died. Nobody was disenfranchised. There was no voter suppression. Wasn't the end of the world. And then, really good point, Jeff. If you can take over several apartment complexes, how many ballots can you generate? Well, that's a very good point. I didn't even think of it from that point of view. But, if you're taking over apartment complex after apartment complex after apartment complex, and you're kicking out all the residents at gunpoint, all the tenants, and you're, replacing them with illegals, that's a lot of votes. That's a lot of ballots. A lot of ballots. 617-266-6868. Kevin in Wilmington. Thanks for holding, Kevin, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Kevin?
Good. Very good. Just quickly, I don't live in Massachusetts. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I live in New Hampshire now. But one of my friends that lives in Mass tried to get in touch with the New Hampshire GOP to volunteer at the polls, and they told him that they were all set. They had plenty of people. I volunteer up in New Hampshire, and the head of the New Hampshire GOP told me that Massachusetts, the Mass GOP, basically knows it's a losing battle, so they don't even bother trying to fight against the Democrats. They just get enough people in there. So that's an interesting point, that they don't even try to fight against the Democrats in Massachusetts. They just let the Democrats rule the roost, basically.
They're paid opposition. The Republicans in Massachusetts are extremely corrupt. That's what I've learned now over my, how many years that I've been in this state, been in talk radio, and I've been involved in local I do more national, obviously, than local politics, but I've been involved in local politics and, frankly, local media. And let me tell you, the media here is just as corrupt as the politics. The reason why the politics is so corrupt is because the media is just as corrupt. So you can't expect the media to be any kind of a watchdog. And I'm telling you right now, the rhinos and the establishment are paid to be the Washington Generals to the Democrats as Harlem Globetrotters. They are paid to be controlled and to lose. And there's a niche. There really is. There's a niche. There's a really nice niche for Republicans to line their pockets. And I'm going to name names. Amy Carnevale. She is the chairperson of the GOP, the Mass GOP. She's a loser's loser. And look here, I'll just give you an example. Yesterday, I went to vote. There wasn't a Republican for Congress. Forget primary. There wasn't a Republican for Congress. For my district, where I live, there was no Republican on the ballot for Congress. Period, full stop. In fact, most of the offices, it was a write-in. There was no candidate. Nothing. There was obviously Bob Antonellis, John Deaton, and Ian Kane for the U.S. Senate primary, which John Deaton won. And again, really, I'm not taking anything away from him. He ran a very good campaign, but he had a war chest. I mean, he had very deep pockets. He dropped a ton of money. He spent a lot of money, and he basically outspent his two opponents, and now he's going to go toe-to-toe with Elizabeth Warren. There was one guy for this general counsel position. There were two other positions. There was just one candidate. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether you're for or against. It's the only candidate in the Republican primary. But there were 7 others. There was no candidate, including, by the way, for Congress. And do you know how many state reps, state senate, even races for Congress, Amy Carnevale is going to leave uncontested for the Democrats? I'm not saying throw no money. I'm not saying, she wouldn't lift a finger. She wouldn't spend a cent. They won't even bother putting up a candidate. The Democrats are going to run completely unopposed. They're throwing in the towel right in front of our face. And what's the argument? All these idiots in the media were saying, she's a winner, Jeff. Unlike the other people, Jim Lyons, Jeff Deal, she's a winner. Yeah, by throwing the game away. By literally not even contesting. She's a lobbyist. She makes money. She lines her pockets by being the chairperson of the Mass GOP. She's paid to lose, and she's paid to throw in the towel. They have enough poll watchers? On what planet is the Massachusetts GOP living on? You never have enough poll watchers. They don't want poll watchers because they don't care. 32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you can text us 70470. 70470. This is from 602. Jeff, hundreds of thousands of the tens of millions of illegal aliens who have poured across the Mexican border are military-age male Chinese nationals. That's an army. The U.S. Armed Forces combined only has about 450,000 active duty servicemen and women around the world. That should make any sane person terrified. I agree. I completely agree. And it's deliberate. It's coordinated. It's a plan by Communist China, just like they want to infiltrate our government. You saw that now with that top aide, Democrat aide in New York State, being arrested now as an agent of Communist China, a spy. Beijing is not playing around. They want world domination, and they want to bury us. And we are giving them the rope to hang us with. Let me just go one more text and go right back to the phone lines. And this one's an absolutely brilliant point. Absolutely brilliant. 917. Jeff, regarding your caller who commented on the cowardice of the Aurora, Colorado men who refused to accept the rights and responsibilities conferred upon us by the Second Amendment. Recall what happened to that Missouri couple. Remember, they were attorneys in the summer of 2020 when a Black Lives Matter mob broke down their iron gate and began to surround them at their home. And the homeowners came to their porch with their legally purchased and registered firearms, one with an AR-15, the other with a disabled handgun, and neither pointed the rifle or the pistol at the screaming mob. They just had it in their hands. And yet, in short order, both were arrested and charged with a number of firearms felonies by the Black Circuit Attorney, the BLM mob, who were at a minimum guilty of trespassing, were unfazed. And they weren't even charged. Kamala Harris had the bail and defense already set up for them. So that's another brilliant point. You know, if you're in Aurora, Colorado, and you're a red-blooded American male, and you go to hell with this, I'm going to defend these apartment complexes, or I'm going to defend my apartment, my family, my home against these rampaging, marauding Venezuelan gangs. Guess what? In a liberal sanctuary city, in a liberal state, you're the one that's going to jail, not the Venezuelan gangbangers. Mike, holding Mike, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mike.
Always a pleasure to hear you on the radio.
Thank you, Mike.
Where I'm at a Wi-Fi when I use my computer, I hate to admit that, but that's what I have. I don't have the internet in the house. But so let me answer your question. I've been a traditional in-person voter. But if President Trump wants it that way, then I will go that way. The A.
So you're gonna vote mail-in ballot this time, right, Mike?
I don't mean to say this with any disrespect, but I'm going to check what you're saying out to affirm what he wants. He's going to get.
Well, that's what he wants, and he says it's going to make his job easier to win. And I certainly understand where you're coming from, Mike. I'm just honestly, I can't put it in a ballot. I can't do it. You know, I mean, I'm just giving you my personal reaction. I've always been an in-person voter, and I'm going to vote in person again. But, you know, do I want other people to vote via mail-in ballot? Please go ahead. If you're comfortable doing it, go ahead. Because we've got to do everything in our power to win, Mike. We can't lose this election, period, full stop.
I'm going back and forth as I'm listening to you talk. I go to and vote in person like I did yesterday to see my friends, see my neighbors that you don't just get to see people anymore, you know? And I'll tell you, in Lynn, where I live, it was 9-1 asking Republican. Believe it or not, a liberal city with BLM sprayed on the front of the courthouse, in the street. It's that blue of a city. But the police, the fire, they're going all night with the unresponsive ODs. It's crime like you wouldn't believe. I got the scanner on low 24 hours a day, Jeff. I'm retired. I'm a senior. But it doesn't mean, you had the 1%ers down your house from that tragic accident in New Hampshire, right? Right. And, anybody that questions the American males, where are they? Let me tell you, we're there. It's just the police hands are tied by the politicians, and the taxes for a municipality are capped. So they stop the chases at a certain speed, and if the state is in town, which they are, they pick it up and chase these people. They're going racking in Walmart, robbing it 5 to 10 times a day, the one in Lynn, because they'll get arrested, but they don't prosecute under $1,100. And what kind of rules are that? The gangs know that. The criminals know that. They were coming. They stole a wheelchair out of there last week, driving down 1A highway in the wheelchair. Come on.
No, I'm with you. No, Mike, I'm with you. Crime, I've sensed crime over the last 4 or 5 years has really gone up all across Massachusetts. Where I live, not so bad. It's still pretty decent. But even where I live, crime is worse. But in other parts of Massachusetts, it's way worse. Way worse. And I've been to Lynn. I go to Lynn at least a couple times a year. And, there are some parts of Lynn. You're right. They're dealing drugs. A lot of ODs. I have police friends in Lynn. They go, Jeff, you wouldn't believe. Sometimes they're going to the same house 3 or 4 times a day. Mike, I'm telling you, a day. And they go, they just keep, it's all Narcan. He goes, it's the same guy ODing over and over and over and over again. And, my police officer friends are telling me that border is killing us. Literally, it's killing us. They're pouring in fentanyl. They're pouring in heroin. They're pouring in cocaine. Drugs are just coming in from that southern border. They're making their way everywhere, including in, towns like Lynn, and people are dying. And you're right. Sanctuary cities, you can't go after these illegals. You can't go after these gangs. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And to me, if you have half a brain, how could you not vote for Donald Trump? So, I'm not asking for people, honestly, Mike. Vote patriotism. Vote what's good for the country. Vote according to civic virtue. I'm just asking people, vote your self-interest. Vote your self-preservation. In other words, don't drown. Okay, you're in the water, you're drowning. Here's the lifeline. Just take the lifeline. That's all I'm asking. And that's too much. For these liberals, they'd rather drown. It's okay. You want to go down? Go down. I don't know what else to tell you. Mike, thank you very, very much for that call. Look, it's like in Aurora, Colorado. They're coming. They're knocking on your door. These are Venezuelan gangbangers with their Uzis and their Glocks and their AR-15s and, they're armed to the teeth. They're kicking you out of your own apartment. And some of these residents, they're not grabbing, they grab their children, obviously, and their spouses. But, they're grabbing the marijuana plant. Like, that's the thing they're grabbing with them as they're being thrown out of their house. And they're chewing on the leaf, the marijuana leaf. They're chewing on the leaf as they're being pushed out of the apartment. So, so they even got to get stoned as they're being forcibly evicted and thrown out of their own apartment. And you ask, Jeff, why aren't people in Aurora, fighting back? Because many of them are too stoned to fight back. They're the ones who voted for this. They welcomed all these illegals to come in. And now at gunpoint, they're kicking them out of their own apartments. 617-2, and the mayor won't do anything. The police chief won't do anything. Nobody's doing anything. The only guy that seems to care is Donald Trump. He's the only guy. And me. We're like, this is normal? This is a normal way to have it? This is a first world country? Like, this all seems normal to everybody. Dave in Chelsea. Speaking of third world hellholes, Dave in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Well, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dave.
Jeff, Chelsea's just like Lynn. It's all the same.
Dave, can you hang on? I want to come back to you on the other side. Let me ask all of you, what should the people of Aurora, Colorado do? Really, if you're living in Aurora, Colorado, or in Chicago, and these gangs are now kicking people out of apartment complexes at gunpoint, what should they do? It was a joke. I was joking. It was a joke. 8:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. I know you can't get stoned from chewing on a marijuana leaf. It was a joke. Okay, about grabbing the marijuana plant as the Venezuelan gangs are kicking down your door and holding a gun to your head and saying you've got 30 seconds. Get out of here or we blow your head off. And all of these stoners in Aurora, I go, they're so stoned, they're grabbing their marijuana plants and they're just chewing it on the way out of the apartment complex. Okay? It's a joke. They're not actually grabbing their marijuana plants and chewing on the marijuana leaf. It's obvious. They're being terrorized out of their apartment buildings. Everybody's a critic. Nobody can take a joke anymore. Jeff, you sound like you don't know what you're talking about. Look, I've never used drugs. Let me make full confessional here. Okay? I've never smoked marijuana. I've never done any drugs. I've never done cocaine or I've never done any drugs whatsoever. Ever. But even I know that if you chew on a marijuana plant, you're not going to get stoned. Like, even I know that. Let's go right back to Dave in Chelsea. Dave says Chelsea's a lot like Lynn. Pretty much every town now is starting to look like Lynn, but let that go. Dave, what do you make now? We've got roving Venezuelan gangs. They're taking over apartment buildings, complexes. They're basically ethnically cleansing all Americans out, replacing them with illegals. They're changing the locks on the buildings. It's now going in Chicago as well. And the liberals don't care. The mayors, the police chiefs, the governors, nobody seems to care, Dave. What say you?
Jeff, this all stems, and everybody knows, this all stems because of Biden's big mouth. He opened up the gate, and this is what's going on. It all stems back to Biden and Harris at the same time. They're the ones who said, come on down, and this is the result of it. And a lot of innocent people are going to be hurt because of this situation that's going on in our country today. It's disgusting on what's going on, Jeff. And Jeff, a quick point also. Jeff, I got ID'd last night when I went to vote, when I finally got home from working all day. Jeff, last year I voted. The year before that I voted. Then all of a sudden they can't find my name on the docket nowhere. I had to re-register, and I was asked to show my ID. While everybody else comes in and just gets away with no ID or anything else. And Jeff, do me a favor, don't knock weed too much, because let me tell you the difference. You smoke a joint, people want to just chill back, put on some good music, relax, all that good stuff. You don't wake up with a hangover the next day from smoking a couple joints at night.
Well, that's a good point. No, Dave, that's a very good point. Dave, if you don't mind me asking, when you went to vote, was that in Dorchester?
No, Jeff, in Malden.
In Malden. Okay. So they did ask you for your ID. I know you have to re-register, but they did ask you for your ID, correct, Dave? Interesting. Dave, just very quick, because you get around a lot, you drive for a living. The last 3.5, 4 years, Chelsea, Lynn, Dorchester, Roxbury, Malden. I'm just, from memory, these are the places you often will call from when you're on the road. Have you noticed that crime has gone up in all those places?
Noticed a lot of things. In Mass and Cass, Jeff, it's a disgrace right now. You would not believe what it looks like. They said they got rid of all the tents. Jeff, they're starting to come back. It's a total disaster area over there.
Unbelievable.
And I've been hearing things. And they're not nice things I've been hearing about. It's a disaster area over there, right on the corner of Mass Ave and Molina Cass, right next to the Boston Medical Center over there. Jeff, it's disgusting. You wouldn't even want to go there for a visit. It's that bad. And then around the other corner from where the Sunoco station is, Jeff, there's a side street that goes down on back of Mass and Cass. Jeff, that's a disaster. If you look down there, you want to just take a grenade and just blow it up.
Oh, Dave, I've been there and I've seen it. I've seen pictures of it. I mean, I've seen it on the internet, but I've actually been there in person multiple times. And man, it's like zombies. No, it's really frightening. It's homelessness, drugs, discarded needles. Forgive me, urine, feces. It's a disaster. It's like San Francisco. It's an absolute disaster. Dave, thank you very, very much for that call. Nancy in the great state of Maine. Thanks for holding, Nancy, and welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Nancy.
Thanks. I just wanted to say I have relatives in New York City, and I go to visit. I actually have a son that's lived there for a couple of years, but my cousins that are real New Yorkers, always lived there, are telling me the crime has not gone up, that it is a Fox News made-up story to get votes for Trump. And I have actually gone to visit my son when I've gone into a bodega and someone has come in and just grabbed a bunch of stuff and told the cashier, I'm just taking this. And the guy's like, please pay for it. And they walk out with the stuff. And my son was living in an apartment in Brooklyn, which he loved the area when he moved in. 7 months into his lease, they opened up a migrant shelter across the street. Someone was stabbed within the first 3 weeks right outside his apartment building. He has since moved to another area. But I think they're like in denial, like this can't be happening to our city or something.
Well, Nancy, that's what I wanted to ask you, because the liberals keep saying, no, crime hasn't gone up. Crime hasn't gone up. This is all, a fabrication of conservative media. And I'm like, don't you go out the door? Don't you drive? Don't you see what's going on? And part of me thinks, honestly, they know they're lying. They're just lying to themselves because they'd have to admit that everything they believe in is a complete failure and it's turned out to be completely wrong. But Nancy, let me ask you, do you think they believe what they're saying, or do you think they know that crime is out of control, but they just don't want to admit it?
That he believes, and he's a professor at a college. Like, I think he believes that he's got kids that are like 20s, and, he's not worried for them. And I believe, and, he loves them. Obviously, you would worry for them if you thought that was true. I don't believe he thinks it's true. Incredible.
Incredible. Well, Nancy, as they say, liberalism is a mental disorder. It's just you can't register reality. I think that's what begins to happen. Your ideology begins to dominate completely what you see, how you perceive the world. But, when he gets mugged, Nancy, or God forbid something happens to him or his family, then he'll wake up. And I'm afraid that's what it's going to take. Nancy, thank you very much for that call. All right, let me get one more in before Dr. Grace comes on. Tom in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Tom.
I saw an article here. It says, retired federal judge and ethics experts want Judge Cannon taken off Trump documents case. It says a former federal judge, along with a government watchdog group and 2 top scholars on judicial ethics, want an appeals court, the 11th Circuit, to reassign the classified documents case against Trump. The group is seeking to file an amicus brief with the 11th U.S. Circuit of Appeals criticizing the way Judge Cannon dismissed the classified documents prosecution. They also took issue with Cannon allowing Trump to slow down the federal investigation in 22 by appointing a special master to review evidence and blocking investigators. And blocking investigators' access to documents seized in the Mar-a-Lago raid. Okay, retired Judge Kuhner was a federal trial judge in Massachusetts. Legal ethics scholars Stephen Gilliards and James J. Sample and a government watchdog group known as Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington are seeking to file the brief with the Atlanta-based 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. You just have to read the resumes of these people. It's unbelievable, especially this Judge Kuhner.
Yeah, well, no, Tom, what this shows to me is that they're worried Kamala Harris is going to lose. That's what this shows to me. If they're still doing everything in their power to try to get Trump behind bars, and they are, and the sentencing, by the way, in a different case, I understand you're talking about the documents case, but in the Stormy Daniels hush money case, that they're going for Trump's throat. So what that shows to me is they want to lock him up. They want to put him in prison. They want to put him behind bars because they are petrified. Kamala cannot win. And so the only way now to stop Trump is either to jail him or to assassinate him. And they tried it once with the assassination and it blew up in their face. So that's what this shows to me, Tom. This is not a position of strength. This is a position of weakness. They're desperate and their desperation now shows. Tom, thank you very, very much for that call. I appreciate it. Okay, joining me now, as she usually does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place, Grace Vuoto. Grace, I've got to ask you, do you think there will be massive voter fraud in November? I led with this story at 6 o'clock, and basically it's driven the whole show today. Kamala Harris, as the borders are, negotiated a deal with the Mexican authorities, the Mexican government. They are now going to be sending hundreds, if not thousands of buses loaded with illegals from the southern Mexican cities in two key areas all the way through central northern Mexico to be processed into the United States ahead of the election. They're going to be given armed escorts by the Mexican military, free meals, free health care, free clothing, free everything. It's going to be a massive surge so that they could eventually vote in November. Will the Democrats steal it from Trump?
Well, Jeff, look, there's no question that they are going to try to steal it. They have been preparing this for years, and that is why they reversed the border policies that Trump had put in place. The moment they came to office, that's the number one thing that they did. So at this moment, we do not know who is in the country, and we do not know definitively what they're up to. It's not just the illegals, but as I have said before, it is also that we have foreign nationals who might be spies, who might be operatives for foreign governments working to steal it. So our election system is in grave jeopardy. There's no question about it. And Jeff, it's not just the threat from the obvious people that we talk about, the illegals, the foreigners. You know that the voting machines themselves are aging and very easy to hack. A lot of the software is out of date. There have been reports about this. Actually, just to secure our elections, even with a fair electoral system in place with voter ID and all that, just to make it up to date would cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So the threats are manifold.
You and I voted yesterday in person, as we always do. And I mentioned earlier in the show, you never trust the voting machines. Every time you go to hand your ballot in to be swallowed up by the machine, and have your vote cast, you always talk to the election official behind that machine, and you always ask the same question. how can you guarantee that my vote has just been counted? And they never give you an answer that satisfies you. For the audience, why don't you trust voting machines?
Well, Jeff, we just do not know what happens the moment that ballot leaves my hand and it goes into this black box. I have no idea what the black box is going to do. And yesterday I asked a different question. I said, okay, what happens, sir, when you write in a couple of the sections there was no candidate in our district? So I wrote your name. Let me just see what happens. Let me write Jeff Kuhner in here. And I said, well, how will you be able to count the write-in ballots? How do you do that? How does the machine do that? He said, what we have to do for that is we actually take all the ballots out of the machine and we have to hand count the write-ins. So they have to hand count it anyways. And he looked at me like frowning and all like distraught. Oh, and it's a real pain. We have to do that. Well, excuse me, if you have to hand count it anyways for the write-in ballots, don't you think it's faster to just do the whole system as hand counted? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. And in many states, they have to hand count anyways to verify that the number of ballots appearing in the machine matches the number that was actually put in there. So in many instances, they're duplicating the process anyways. So just do it right the first time.
That's a brilliant point. That is an absolutely brilliant point. Okay, Dr. Grace, I want to pivot a little bit. I want to ask you, Kamala Harris is going to be in New Hampshire today. She's going to be giving apparently a major speech on the economy. And according now, I'm just going by these phony baloney, these fake news polls. They're now saying Georgia neck and neck, Arizona neck and neck, Nevada neck and neck, Pennsylvania neck and neck, Michigan, Wisconsin neck and neck. Apparently now, according to the media, citing some of these polls, this is anybody's race to win, anybody's race to lose. It is, it's down to the wire. In fact, they're saying Kamala is slightly ahead in every single battleground state. But when she talks, this is what tends to come out of her mouth. And I want to play the clip, and I want to get your reaction. This is Kamala Harris in Pittsburgh yesterday. Roll cut 11, Mike.
We have dreams. We can see what is possible unburdened by what has been. We have aspirations. We have ambitions. And the system that is a good system is one that supports that and allows people the opportunity to go where they can see and imagine themselves to be.
Do you know what she's saying?
Well, you know what? She's appealing to the indoctrination that is already in place. Because don't you hear the clapping? They're like, yeah. Look, Jeff, what is astonishing to me, and I spoke to you about it. We were in Canada over the Labor Day weekend. I went out with my girls. I thought we were going to have a good time. Guess what? It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and somebody says, Grace, come on, tell us, as a Christian, how can you vote for Trump? Literally, this is what they're asking me. And it's not like they're going to vote in the next election. So I've got to explain everything to them. And then now it's almost 2 o'clock, and they're going on about abortion rights, Jeff. And these are women that are way past the age of bearing children. They don't want children. They don't want to look at a child. They don't want to babysit a child. And they're going on about abortion rights in a country that they're not going to vote in. There is an indoctrination in place that precedes the stupid electoral candidate that we just heard.
That's interesting. Well, this is the point I don't get. You have so many women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're going on about abortion. And my obvious rebuttal to them is, look, you can't get pregnant. So you're never going to be faced with the choice of whether you can have a child or not have a child. So what's it to you?
Exactly.
vote
What's
your
it to you? And I was
pocketbook.
saying, I thought I was here to have a good time, and they're going on about it. And what's even more astonishing is that the anti-Trump derangement syndrome is as intense across the border as it is here. So we are up against an indoctrination in pro-liberal values and an indoctrination of hatred of Donald Trump that is so profound that it almost doesn't matter what this idiot says. What Kamala Harris says almost doesn't matter. They're still going to applaud. Yeah.
Grace, we've got about a minute left, so let me ask you the $64,000 question. The state of the race now, it's after Labor Day. We got 60 days left until Election Day. Will Kamala Harris win? Will Trump win? Or do you think the Democrats will steal it? How do you handicap the race at this point?
Well, look, Jeff, this is how I see it. Donald Trump has done the impossible, literally the impossible, every step of the way. Did we think he would be standing as strong as he is now? Did we think that a few months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago? He's beaten all the odds, and the last odd that he just beat was a bullet coming at him, and by less than an inch, he beat that bullet. So he has done the impossible, and what encourages me is that he is very well aware of what he is up against. We talk about election fraud. His team talks about it every day. They know the kind of fight they're up against, and he just got Corey Lewandowski on board, which signals to me that he's ready for a street fight. He's ready to do whatever it takes to beat the dirty, rotten Democrats. So that gives me hope that we have a leader who knows what this fight is about, and he knows how to win.
Is the honeymoon essentially over now with Kamala Harris? She had this sugar high, but she's got no bounce from the convention. The interview at CNN bombed. She's been caught lying about holding a job at McDonald's. Now she's getting into a nasty fight with Gold Star parents. Is this now the beginning of the end of Kamala? 30 seconds.
Jeff, I hope so, and he's got to unmask her during the debate, but he's got a thick layer of indoctrination to get through, and that's a tall order. If there is one person who can do it, it's him.
We've been talking with Grace Woto, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Full disclosure, my better half, my wonderful wife, and yes, I married up, and she reminds me of it every single day. Dr. Grace, thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk to you same time, same place next week. All right, take care. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I'm going to continue to take your calls. A couple lines are open if you want to jump on. And wow, do I got a story for you. Is Amazon trying to interfere in the election? 9:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, there's no question now. Jeff Bezos, another major globalist, owns the Washington Post. Obviously, he owns Amazon, one of the biggest corporations on the planet, in the entire world. And he is a key billionaire globalist donor to the Democratic Party. Many people use Alexa. I don't personally, but my kids, they love Alexa. They ask Alexa for everything. So on your iPhone, your iPad, whatever it is, Alexa, look this up for me. Alexa, answer this for me. Alexa, whatever. Turn the music on for me. Turn the computer on. Alexa, get me Fox News. Whatever. It's Alexa, Alexa, Alexa. Well, listen now to this. Trump's supporters have found out Jeff Bezos and Amazon have been caught rigging Alexa, artificial intelligence, to try to help tilt the election in favor of Kamala Harris. When you ask Alexa, tell me about President Trump, or why should I vote for Trump? Or you ask Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris? You're going to get two radically different answers. Listen now. Now, for many of you out there, I'm sure many of you out there, if you're above, 45, 50, Alexa's not a big deal. You're like me, you like to do things yourself. But I'm telling you, for those in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, all they do is rely on Alexa. Alexa is everything to them. So this is a huge story. Listen now. I'm going to play the cut. This is what millions of Americans are now reporting. Alexa, why should I vote for Trump? Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris? Listen to what Alexa says. Roll cut 20, Mike.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes a specific political party or a specific candidate.
Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
While there are many reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, the most significant may be that she is a woman of color who has overcome numerous obstacles to become a leader in her field. Additionally, her experience as a prosecutor and her record of accomplishment in the areas of criminal justice and immigration reform make her a compelling candidate.
Can you believe this? You want to talk about lies. Okay, you want to talk about just pure garbage. Okay, but for a second, let that go. So, when it comes to the evil orange man, when it comes to L. Donald, okay, to Trump, we can't talk politics. No, I'm not allowed. I can't give you an opinion on a major political candidate. Can't do it. Okay, how about Kamala Harris? Well, that's a Democrat. That's a different story. Oh, well, why should you vote for her? So notice her accomplishments. Alexa doesn't name an actual concrete accomplishment. Can't name a single law, a single bill, a single policy or legislative achievement. No. Well, a female minority vice president broke a ceiling there. Okay, that's her skin color, that's her plumbing, but what's an actual achievement? Okay, in the areas of criminal justice and immigration reform, what did she do for criminal justice? What, bail out Black Lives Matter rioters? Immigration reform, what, open up the entire southern border and allow an invasion? That's an achievement according to Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and Alexa. Now, Amazon is now claiming the backlash was immense. Basically, look, Amazon and Alexa went as far as they possibly could to say, vote Kamala. Donald Trump bad, Donald Trump evil, vote Kamala. Why? Because she's a woman and a minority. That's it. Okay? Vote for the plumbing, vote for the skin color, vote Kamala. That's it. Oh, and she's going to allow all the illegals to keep pouring in, which is cheap labor, and that'll make Jeffy Bezos very happy. Jeff Bezos loves cheap labor. So the globalists will be happy. I mean, you'll be a lot poorer. You're going to be screwed, but forget that. Vote, plumbing, skin color, cheap labor. That's it. Illegals. And don't vote for evil orange man. Now, there was such a massive blowback to this that now Amazon came out. We don't know. We can't believe there is something. We don't understand how this algorithm got in there. We don't know how. I'm serious. We don't know how this happened. It was a mistake. And we're correcting this. And, now they're just, Alexa's going to say, I can't comment on a major political candidate or a major political party. But notice, every time there's a mistake, every single time, it always goes one way. It always goes in favor of the Democrats, or in this case, Kamala Harris. It always goes against Trump every single time. Which, as anybody will tell you, mathematically, that's impossible. No. Jeff Bezos and Amazon were directly interfering in the election. And now they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. If Trump wins in November, it will truly be a miracle. And as I told Grace, and by the way, the fake news media establishment doesn't want to touch this story. They are now like the Praetorian Guard for Kamala Harris. It's like a Berlin Wall around Kamala. The media will now protect her at all costs. 9:31. 9:31, actually 9:32 now on the great WRKO. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a lot of you are reacting to this Alexa Amazon story. This is from Dave on Messenger. He just messaged me this a couple minutes ago. Jeff, funny. I didn't know Alexa is a liberal. Jeff, I just asked my Alexa if Commie Kamala was a communist. No answer. Okay, this is from Mark on Messenger. Hey, Jeff, ask Alexa this, quote, "Hey, Alexa, define election interference." And Mark goes on to say, Jeff, this election should be under protest for fraud and interference before it even happens. Oh, there's no question about it. No question about it. Look, very quickly, 30 more seconds, and then I want to go back to the phone lines. There's another big scandal. And again, the media is completely censoring this. And as I told Grace yesterday, I go, you really feel, this is how I feel, like I'm swimming upstream. Like, you know, like just like I'm climbing up a hill to try to get information out because of the massive Berlin Wall, this information blockade that the mainstream media, the so-called mainstream media, the fake news media complex, the propaganda media complex has now imposed about Kamala Harris. It is lie after lie after lie after lie. So listen to this now. We may not think it's a big story, but in Pennsylvania, this is huge. As you know, Pennsylvania could actually be the state that determines the election. So Pennsylvania could be the linchpin state that decides the whole thing. Well, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh are the two big areas that the Democrats control. Basically, think Pennsylvania, two blue dots. That's Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and then in a sea of red. That's the rest of Pennsylvania. So the only way for the Democrats to win Pennsylvania is to drive up the vote count in both the two big cities, Philly and Pittsburgh. In Philadelphia, they are, you know, the way we're Patriots fanatics here in New England, they are Philadelphia Eagles fanatics. Okay? Fanatics. They love their professional football team in Philadelphia. Long story short, all across Philadelphia now, it's been about, what is it, Sandy? 4 or 5 days now? You are seeing counterfeit political ads. Every bus stop, every train stop, poll everywhere, all over the city. And it claims it's got Kamala Harris wearing a Philadelphia Eagle football helmet, and it says the Eagles love Kamala. So the impression that the Kamala campaign is giving is that the Philadelphia Eagles officially endorse Kamala Harris. Now, many people in Philadelphia were upset for multiple reasons. One, why are the Eagles directly interfering in an election? You shouldn't be endorsing any candidate. Aren't you guys in football? You're not in politics. And of course, you have Trump supporters who are losing their minds saying, how the hell, how dare the Eagles endorse one candidate over another candidate? Well, it turns out the whole thing is a lie. It's a dirty political trick by the Harris campaign and the Democrats. The Philadelphia Eagles had to put out a statement saying, we never endorsed Kamala Harris. We have nothing to do with the Kamala Harris campaign. This has nothing to do with us. We don't support her. We don't endorse her. We're not backing her. We haven't made her an official Philadelphia Eagle. This is all lies and propaganda. It's all coming from the Harris campaign. They're the ones putting up this counterfeit ad everywhere. Now, I'm telling you, that's a Federal Election Commission. That's an FEC violation. That's a campaign violation. Forget that it's unethical. I mean, this is the level they're willing to stoop to in order to try to steal this election. And we're still over 60 days away, just over 60 days. So, are the Democrats trying to steal it? You better believe it. They're even invoking Alexa, Amazon, and they're trying to invoke the Philadelphia Eagles. Suzanne in Florida. Thanks for holding, Suzanne, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. It's great down here in Florida. You need to come down here.
I may be joining you pretty soon, Susan. Very soon.
Well,
November could be the final blow. I may be your neighbor.
Well, why I called originally was about the voting fraud and registering to vote. Well, you can't register to vote down here unless you show your birth certificate. You go to get a license, they ask you if you want to register to vote, and you say, yeah. And then they say, well, in order to get a license and your voter registration, you must show a birth certificate. You must show a bill from your house, like electric bill, a water bill, or whatever. And then you're allowed to register to vote. And we have to show our ID. You show your ID, they scan it, they give you this little slip of paper, then you go to the next thing, then they give you your staple, your little slip of paper that they give you with a special number on it to another piece of paper, and then they give you your ballot. You cannot cheat down here. You just can't. We went from hanging chads to the most secure elections in the country.
Well, that's why, honestly, Susan, I want to see the Florida model on election integrity and other areas as well. Not just elections, but let's just keep it to elections. On election integrity, I want to see it across the entire country. And Susan, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the SAVE Act, the Senate now is going to take it up. And that's very similar to what you have in Florida. You have to show proof of citizenship in order to just be registered to vote. Just to be registered, you got to show proof of citizenship. Then when you vote, you have to show voter ID. And all non-citizens, and not just illegals, you're a green card holder, you're here on a work visa or whatever. If you're not a citizen, you're automatically purged from the voting rolls. Automatically. And to me, that's exactly the system that we should have. And what tells you everything you need to know, Susan, every Democrat is against it. Every single Democrat voted against it in the House. Every Democrat will vote against it in the Senate. Joe Biden has said over his dead body, will he ever sign it? And Comrade Kamala, Chameleon Kamala, same thing. Under no circumstances, she says, will she ever sign the SAVE Act. So the Democrats are telling us to our face they want illegals to vote by the millions. They want them to vote, the more the merrier. Final say to you, Susan.
The bottom line is this. If we don't have major fraud, if these 30 million illegal aliens don't vote, okay, they can't vote. And I want you to ask the Democrats that listen to you, why on earth would you want illegal aliens and non-citizens to vote in our elections? That's the first question. They're either against their own country or they're just crazy. They love their party more than they love their country. But the bottom line is this. If illegal aliens by the millions do not vote in this election, I'm predicting Donald Trump will take all 50 states.
Oh, it's a landslide. Oh, there's no question. No, Susan, you're a genius. You're absolutely correct. Look, forget that. If we just have 10 million illegals voting, no illegals should vote. Please don't misunderstand me. But say cut it off at 10 million. Here, we'll give you 10 million illegals. Go. They can vote. Donald Trump still wins in November. So if it's a free and fair election, if there are no illegals voting, this thing is over. This thing is over now. I mean, let's not even bother with I'm telling you, don't even bother with the election. Kamala would be destroyed in every single state practically. And that's why the Democrats want illegals voting. Because who would vote to deport themselves? Who would vote for the party? You're going to vote against the party that lets you in? That's going to give you amnesty? That gives you $64 a day for food per illegal? $260 a day for a family of 4 a day? 5-star hotels, food stamps, free health care, free education. Now in California, they're going to give you a house. A house. You'd be crazy not to vote for the Democrats if you're an illegal. That's why Democrats favor illegals voting. That's why they're against the SAVE Act. And you're right, it is treason. It's out and out treason. Let me ask all of you, okay, and Susan, thank you very much for that call. Let's flip it, just for the sake of argument. Say these 30 million illegals, it was 99% Republican. That this was an army of, Cubans. Okay, and they're all going to vote conservative and vote Republican. Do you think Democrats would allow them to vote? And down the stretch we come. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Andy?
I'm doing very well, Jeff. I'm doing very well. Start off with, Jeff, you talked about Alexa and Jeff Bezos and Amazon.
Yes.
Just one quick point about that. You realize Jeff Bezos owns 2 super yachts that are the size of the Titanic.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this guy is insanely wealthy, and the under 40 crowd and the 20-something crowd that, are so reliant on Alexa, they've really got to ask themselves, who is this guy to tell us that we have to accept something less than a middle-class lifestyle, or to tell us own nothing and be happy? They're just going to have to ask themselves some questions in the name of their own self-interest at this point. And that's all I got to say about that.
Andy, before you continue, if you don't mind, and look, how do I say this? I'm not, in a way I'm being tongue in cheek. Obviously I'm being tongue in cheek, but in another way I'm actually being half serious. If you look at Jeff Bezos, the way he conducts himself, how ruthless he is, how he buys up everything in sight, the alliance he's formed with the other oligarchs that control the Democrat Party, his connections to the World Economic Forum, and you're right, him, Klaus Schwab, Soros, now more the son, Alex, than George, because George Soros is getting up there and he's semi-retired. But, Bill Gates, the whole cabal. You're right. They go on about how everybody should own nothing, and they'll be happy owning nothing, while they have multiple mansions, super yachts, private jet planes. They're worth, forget billions, gazillions and gazillions of dollars. And you see him with his, the way he conducts himself, and that, he almost looks like Lex Luthor, the supervillain against Superman. Doesn't Jeff Bezos almost look like a villain from James Bond? If you were to do like Dr. Niet, if you were going to do Dr. No, wouldn't Jeff Bezos be the perfect guy to play Dr. No? I want world control. I want world domination. Wouldn't that be him, Andy?
You follow the money and what his net worth is. And I could be wrong on this, but I believe I've heard that his net worth right now is somewhere around $2 trillion.
Holy mackerel.
I know at one point it was at least $1 trillion. I mean,
So he's wealthier than most countries in the world.
Pretty much. I mean, the whole Amazon empire has just made him like phenomenally wealthy.
And and I think what people don't realize is, Andy, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, it's a global empire. I mean, we think, oh, it's the United States and Canada. No. It's all over Europe. It's all over Latin America. It's all over Asia. It's everywhere. Amazon, he's a globalist because his empire is global. So, you're dead on. Andy, do you think is there going to be a backlash over this, that he was trying to rig, or his people were rigging Alexa, essentially to tell younger voters to vote for Kamala Harris? I mean, do you think there's going to be any political blowback to Bezos over this?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, where they're already backpedaling and say, not us, it was a mistake somewhere else. They're already backpedaling. So I'll say yes, there is going to be a backlash.
Andy, thank you very much for that call. All right, who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Peter in Ipswich. Peter, I hate to do this to you. You've got 1 minute. The floor is yours. Go.
Okay. In January, Kamala Harris is going to certify her own election after she gets enough fake votes to win. That's it.
You drop a brilliant bombshell like this at 9:55 of the show, Peter. I mean, I got to chew on that. That is an absolutely an incredible observation. But you're right. Technically, she's going to be the one to certify herself if they steal the election. So no wonder the Democrats are supremely confident that they can steal this thing and that voter fraud will pull them over the top. Who's going to stop them? Kamala will certify herself. Peter, don't get me wrong, my friend. I only have eyes for my wife, but I love you in a non-sexual way. We're going to have to look into this a lot more. I promise. We don't have enough time, but I'm going to return to this. Best audience in the business. Peter, check your IQ. I guarantee you, you're a genius. Okay, to the callers, you were phenomenal today. I gotta go. Bye-bye.